Yo, 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 what is going on, you guys? It's the best video gaming podcast in possibly the universe. We don't know if there's another one out there outside of this planet, but on this planet, we're on top. And today we're going to talk about a lot of different games. We got a lot of stuff for you guys today. So, Blake, you want to introduce yourself and maybe talk about some games you're going to talk about today?
Yo, what's going on, everyone? This is Blake from the Sticky Buns podcast. We're a pretty chill video game podcast, and we talk about the games we love here. So thanks for tuning in. As Brandon said, I took a peek in the multiverse. It's the best video game podcast out there. And, today we're going to be talking about all kinds of stuff. We've got some Pokemon on the agenda, a 3DS game because it's season 3. I'm going to be talking about Stray, but I think Brandon's going to kick it off today. So, Brandon, kick it off. What are we talking
Yeah.
about first?
So I'm gonna kick it off. Yeah, I'm gonna kick it off some BDSP, something we were talking about in the last episode. Tune into our last episode if you haven't heard it already.
Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl.
Yeah, man, this is the title we've been super excited for. We even have some episodes where we're just like super stoked leading up to it, and rightfully so. It's a remake of one of our favorite Pokemon games, one of our favorite generations, the Sinnoh
Mhm.
generation.
Yeah, we both played it a lot growing up, and gosh, I mean, it's awesome to see it, being remade. Let me ask you, Brandon. I mean, we're almost getting close because it came out in November. It's September right now. We're almost a year later. How are you feeling towards it? What's your general feelings?
Yeah, this is a question that I've had a lot of time to ponder on, especially since, Scarlet and I believe Violet are coming out.
You're
And
coming out, yeah, in like a couple months, yeah.
so, I'm kind of just getting ready to say my farewells to this title and just tune into that region fully.
Are you saying sincerely Sinnoh? Are you saying peace after when the new one comes out, or?
No, I'm not gonna just totally stop playing because there's a lot to do after you beat Cynthia, which I still haven't done in Pearl. Something I
Mhm.
have to say. I have both Pearl and Diamond. I've yet to beat her, so
You restarted after playing a while.
I did, but not in the way you would expect. You would expect me to just go and press a new game on Pearl, but I just went and
Mhm.
bought Diamond. It
Uh,
was on sale though, so
you saved a couple bucks.
saved a little bit.
Hmm.
And yeah, I was having a great time my second playthrough and just experiencing the region for the second time and having all those memories come back. And not only like with playing this game comes like the memories of like my life at the time when I was playing it, interestingly enough. And yeah, it's a very, very nostalgic game. I love how it's just like very cute in the sense that everything is kind of like, I don't know, rounded out and
It's kind of like a chibi art style.
yeah, and it's very fun to look at, very fun to just spend time in. And I've been spending a lot of time in the Grand Underground. In fact, I'm actually digging in the Grand as we're recording.
Oh, the Grand Underground. Yeah, honestly, I really enjoy that whole aspect of it. Like, I really think they did a great job with the Grand Underground.
They did a great job with it. I remember originally playing Pokemon Pearl and not really liking it too much.
Well, I mean, so here's the thing. It's like in the original, it's very practical to spend some time down there because you can get all kinds of items for evolution of like different Pokemon. But also for me, I always went down there to find the heart scales because that's the only way that you can relearn a move that a Pokemon has forgotten is to have this like item as a heart scale. I
One
wish
by
they,
one.
there's only one. Yeah.
I know, and also in the board, it's a one by one. So it's like
Oh, yeah, yeah.
it's super easy to just mine
Yeah.
around it and totally miss it.
They're very much a pain to find. And in the original, like that's pretty much the only thing I was doing down there. It's just like searching and scowling for these. But I mean, it's a remake. They said they wanted to keep it very faithful. I'm glad that like they kept it faithful, but that's one of the things that I personally wish they had changed up a little bit. But I get that it's like an homage, so to speak. And really quick on just like what you said about nostalgia. Recently, I learned something about the word nostalgia and the beginning of the word, like its Greek origin is a homesickness.
Mm.
And the end of it is like return home. It's like you can never return home. It's kind of like how the word began, had its origins. And I just think that that's really interesting because, I mean, with Pokemon games, like it really feels like when you play them as a child, especially your first couple, like you really feel like that's like a home away from home, so to speak, you know? And like
Yeah.
going in and experiencing this region again, I just feel like it adds like a whole nother layer to that. I don't know. I love seeing the differences, and even though it's got some quirks, I love getting in there and just being in that area as well.
What are some of your favorite areas to be in the Sinnoh region?
I've been finding new ones, and a lot of it's in the Grand Underground. I really love those caves that you can go into because that's something they didn't have in the original.
Yeah.
But in the Grand Underground now, there's these huge caverns, and they're kind of like open world, like isometric view, open world, kind of
Right.
like the right word. But like there's Pokemon in the environment. You can run around them or get in fights with them. I think that's awesome. It's just like discovering that new aspect of it. And also, I really like when you start a battle, you can see the whole environment. I think that really adds to it.
Yeah.
And in the style shop, gotta say, love the ability to change your clothes, change your outfit.
Which is something we've seen in the past in like different
Mhm.
Pokemon titles. And it's really cool how like they pick and choose like what features to put in what game. Like that's
Yeah.
gotta be
Mhm.
someone's job to just like literally architect like what's gonna be in this game and what's not gonna be in this game.
Because they do have some of the more modern features that I really like. For example, when you get into the Pokemon like summary, you can change the order of their moves and how they appear
Yeah.
on screen. And I feel like that's a very new feature. That was not in the original, but that is, I mean, I really like that. I personally like to put them in the order that I would use them, or like my most used move, or like my favorite moves at the top. And then I think that that's really cool. And I also think, I don't really know how you feel about this, Brandon. I think that the touchpad, because I mean, originally this was a DS game, now it's on Switch. And in order to get that second screen on the Switch, you have to hold a button and then it pops it up. And I personally think that's implemented very well. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it was executed well. I feel like you still have a touch screen too, so you can like
Hmm.
go to your trainer info, view your badges, and like shine them up still how you used to with your
Hmm.
stylus.
Yeah,
I
that's
used,
really cool. That's one of the coolest aspects of the game.
that's how I used to always start my like play sessions. It was just shine all my badges with my stylus on the DS.
Hmm.
Although now I'm a little hesitant to do that because it's like my Switch screen. I don't really want to, you know, scratch it up like that.
I actually haven't polished my badges up in a little bit. Maybe I should do that next time I get on. But I've been having a good time with it. I still play it. I'm still playing it. Brandon pulled me back onto it. He needed to trade some mons. So I traded some mons with Brandon. I did some breeding. And so after you beat the game, you can go and talk to an NPC and they'll give you an EV, but you can shiny hunt this EV. So like, it's like a totally random if you get a shiny, like it's normal shiny odds. It's like 1 in 8,000. And I just
Wow.
like, I'll go in and talk to her. I'll just do that for like an hour, like 5 minutes, 20 minutes, whenever I have time. And that's kind of what I'm doing right now in it. But what about you? What are you doing in it currently?
1 in 8,000. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
it's
That makes me think about my shiny Machamp.
hmm.
It's crazy for me to find him.
Yeah, you just got him in the Grand Underground.
Yeah, I
That's
nicknamed him
awesome.
Rey Mysterio. I got him in the Great Underground.
That
He's
was a great name, by the way.
super fun to just play with, and I walk together with him, and you could still see the shiny. Like I thought that's such a great feature that they incorporated the walk together. That's such great detail
Oh, I
too.
love that. Yeah, that's really fun. That's one of my favorite features in a Pokemon game. Like honestly, if you don't have that, what are you doing? I think that's I will say that's probably one of my top features. I would say top three are being able to change your moves whenever you want, having the Pokemon follow you, and outfits.
I know you asked me what I'm up to, but I also want to say I on the topic of features, I really like
Mm-hmm.
the friendship feature, how like
Mm,
how you're in a battle and they
yeah.
should definitely knock you out, but like your Pokemon toughs it out so you won't feel sad.
Mm-hmm.
Like I love that because I can't tell you the amount of times it saved my butt when I'm trying to catch a Pokemon. Recently I caught Dialga with a Pokeball because of it. Because I just like I was on my last string. I was trying to heal up and heal up. revive, just trying to stay up and catch this guy thing. And finally, my Sceptile just refused to go down, and it tucked it out 3 times in a row until finally I caught it.
That's
And
awesome.
it was crazy.
Is that the Sceptile? Did that come from the Trico that I traded you?
Yeah, that Sceptile came from that Trico.
That's
I
awesome.
bred him into adamant nature, and now that Leaf Blade is dangerous.
That's awesome, man. That's so cool. That's also like it's such a cool feature. Just like I mean, I didn't really trade all that much when I was a kid, but having that, it's just like a cool aspect of the game. Just like playing it with you and trading them on. It's like that's certainly very cool.
Yeah, like we can play the Grand Underground together.
Yeah.
Maybe that's something we could stream. Just going down there, finding some mons, mining. You could like mine together too, which is
hmm
really cool.
Yeah,
Um,
that's cool. But I guess really quick on the feature with your friendship, that's really they've never done that in any Pokemon game before, to my knowledge.
and I was trying to remember, did they do that in the original?
I don't know. It certainly wasn't
They
there in the
didn't, right?
original. I think this is a wholly new feature.
I think there might have been something like they were trying to introduce it slightly. I think it might have been with the Poketch, where like if you,
Oh,
I remember there was something they were trying to introduce with like the friendship thing, because there were Pokemon in order to complete your Pokédex, you had to improve your friendship with them.
hmm
And
yeah.
that's why there are even some berries, which I think only exist in this Pokemon
Oh yeah,
game.
like the Poffins.
The Poffins are definitely a system to like increase friendship, but there are berries too that you can give your Pokemon that actually increase their friendship at the cost of lowering a base point of their stat, which is really
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
The berries in this game, like they really try to shove them down your throat, for lack of a better phrase. There are plots everywhere.
I actually, man, I've got a couple favorite spots where I'll just like I had a plane ride one time early on in the year, and all I did was I flew around to all of my spots that I had planted berries, and it literally took me like the whole hour. Like it was a short plane ride, and that's all I did was just like berry management during this plane ride. And
That's awesome.
I don't know. I mean, that's like it's a system where like you can engage with that however much you want to. It can be fun, or you can just not engage with it at all.
Yeah,
You know?
I just didn't engage with it my first time playing like Pokemon Pearl, and I'm not engaging with it now. I tried to in the beginning. I definitely did when I was first starting the second playthrough in Diamond, but I kind of just lost steam.
There are a couple berries that I like to have. Actually, there's one that I used when I was fighting Cynthia, which I think is pretty awesome. It's the one where it gives you like 10 PP on a move.
Oh, that's a great berry.
I think it's the Leapa berry.
The leap, yeah.
Late,
Or maybe is it the Iapa? It's like the yellow-ish one. It's like it looks kind of like a pear.
I don't know. Here, I'm pulling it up right now. No, I can't find it actually. Well, I guess maybe we'll bring it up later on another podcast episode. Yeah, it's one of those berries. Yeah, I mean, there's just so many.
There are so many
There's
berries.
actually there's a lot of gym leaders and their Pokemon will have berries and they'll use if you're about to use a super effective move, they'll use the berry and it makes the super
Yeah.
effective move less effective. And
This
that
game is
can
very like slimy. They're going to try to defeat you with the items, with the effects. If that Pokemon is known to have like a nasty effect, they're going to have that effect on that Pokemon. They're going to be like the best nature. They're going to heal the Pokemon with a max potion if it's like their strongest Pokemon, just like you might. The Pokemon battles are really intense, which brings me to what I'm doing right now. I am at the Sunny Shore gym. I'm gearing up to give the eighth gym leader a riveting battle that'll excite him and make him and make him
Uh,
want to keep doing his job.
oh my gosh, I love that. Like, so basically, when you're playing this game, you just meet this gym leader, and he's pretty much given up because he's like the
Yeah,
best gym leader, and he's like, nobody's been able to defeat
he's
me.
the last gym leader. He's just beating everyone. You could imagine these everyone's like trying to go to the league, but he's the last guy to ward them off from the league.
hmm
And he's doing a great job at it, obviously, because he's still there.
Yeah, he lost his passion, man. He lost his passion.
He's done it for so long, he's bored. He needs a fiery, passionate battle. And I'm the guy's got to give it to him. And so I'm getting ready. I'm in the Grand Underground trying to find some hard skills so that I could really brush up my move sets and, cater to the natures of my Pokemon. More specifically, my Charizard is more of a special attacker. So I need some more special
Mm.
attack moves. My Dragonite is the opposite. And right now I have a lot of special moves on my Dragonite, so I'm trying to really fix his move sets. I'm trying to fix the move sets for Machamp. Man, the move set of Machamp is just atrocious.
Yeah, especially if you find it later on, like when it's a later level, like you probably really need to give it some new moves. But
I definitely do.
let me ask you this, man. Your team right now, you mentioned a Gen 1, a Gen 3 starter. Do you have a starter from this region on your team? Because I mean, you guys said like four
Nah.
Pokemon. No,
Listen, the starters from this region, I love them. I love
hmm
Torterra. I love Empoleon. Infernape
hmm
is great, but they're mid. Shit, Infernape
Oh.
Infernape is like maybe up there on the tier because of his speed is just up there, but his defense is just not it. If you look at a starter like a Swampert, he's just gonna crush. He has that crazy attack. It's good defense, just good overall. But I cut Swampert from the squad because Sceptile is just killing it with the really, really good speed and attack combo. He's just crushing it, man. A Leaf Blade is just he will defeat things that are not very effective with one Leaf Blade. And then Charizard speaks for himself,
Yeah,
especially if you have like the right nature for him, you give him good moves. He's just a demon.
yeah.
And I'm recently more excited for Gligar. I caught a Gligar of a jolly nature, which means he's gonna have that like speed boost, which he's already really fast.
hmm
So I'm excited to just play with him and see how he plays out, like how he develops.
I had a very Gen 4 team when I took mine on. I had the fossil Pokemon, I had Rampardos.
You were going in with like a purely Sinnoh team.
I did, I really did. I went in
Yeah.
with I'm trying to think if there was any other, I mean, there were a couple I think that might have been like a Gen 2 Pokemon. I'm trying to think. I had an Altaria. I don't think that's a Gen 4.
No, yeah, I think that's Johto, I want to say.
Yeah, I think you're right. But I definitely had four of my, because I had Rampardos, Infernape, I had Jirachi on my team, so that's three. And then I had Altaria, Gengar, and I'm forgetting my fifth member. Oh, I had Manaphy, which is also
Dude,
a
that's
Gen
not
4.
fair. Cynthia was probably tight. She was like, "Dude,
She
these guys,
actually she beat me up a couple times.
damn, okay." Even with your legendaries, that Garchomp probably did a number. I remember that Garchomp is just, oh man, something else.
Yeah, she's got a really tough team. I'm sorry. I don't think I used Jirachi in the final. I think I had a Togekiss that I swapped out for Jirachi.
Okay, I had Togekiss on my team in Pearl. I really liked my Togekiss, but I didn't EV train it, so it was just getting
hmm
stomped. It was just getting mowed every time that I fought her.
I actually, one of the things that you talked about, there's a lot to do after you beat Cynthia. You can go back and beat all of the gym leaders again, and they all have new teams. So I think that that's really cool, and they all are like level 80 teams. So I, I'm not gonna lie, I walked into face. Oh my gosh, you remember who's the first gen at Orberg City? Do you remember their name?
What's his
Is it
name?
Roxy?
No, it's a guy.
Ah,
He's the
Orberg.
miner. He's the miner with the red hair. Clive, I want to say.
Let's see. Rorik.
Rorik. Okay.
Yeah, it's Rorik. Yeah, so I went I went in and I was like, I have no idea what level they're gonna be. I'm trying to level up four of my Pokemon. I brought two Pokemon that were like in the level 70 range. I was like, I can probably take him. Like I've got some super effective moves. Like this can probably take him
We
out.
could probably go.
And but I was like, I'm gonna save it beforehand just to like make sure he wiped the floor with me. I just like restarted it and I had to like
Wow. What
reset
was
my
the game
team.
plan? Did you beat him? Do you end up beating him?
Oh, I mean, I beat him the second time. I just didn't have like any Pokemon up to the right level. And like I had
Yes.
no hope. I walked in there with a level 72 Pokemon, a level 75 Pokemon. And I mean, the other Pokemon were in their like 30s because I was trying to level them up. There was no way they were going to help me. So, and I think every single one of those Pokemon were level 80 and above. So, I mean, like truly, it's a whole different game once you beat Cynthia. And I think that that's really awesome that they did that. It's been a lot of fun, just revisiting that.
It's such a great game, and I'm glad they gave us this kind of trip down memory lane right before they're going to give us this brand new title, this brand new region. I'm curious to see how they execute. I've been seeing a lot of criticism on YouTube, people saying that, this is the downfall of Pokemon because, they've been releasing so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like, if anything, it's the opposite. I feel like it's Pokemon is thriving now because they're able to execute these these things are obviously planned. They're able to execute on these time schedules and come out with these titles that they get the job done. I mean, at the end of the day, they sell for $60, right?
Yeah.
And people are spending the money for a reason because they know that these games are going to do their job. And so shout outs to the Pokemon company. People are going to criticize. I think to the people that are criticizing, I think you should maybe spend a little more time on the game.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And like straight up, really quick on that. There's a lot of criticism on these games. They're not even out yet. Like you can't criticize something you haven't played. And like I think that that's just dumb. I mean, you just can't. Number two, I will say just to give people a little bit of something. When this game first came out, it was really buggy, and I actually had it crash on me a couple times. And they put out a bunch of patches, so like I do think it was rushed out a little bit, but I think it's in a totally different state today. Like a year later, I think it's great. But also, like kind of what you're saying about the yearly release schedule, there was a point, earlier in this year where we had been playing this. Neither of us had beat it yet, and Arceus had come out, and we were playing Arceus, and we were having a blast. And then they were like, that's when they announced Scarlet and Violet. I think that you and me, we were both like, oh my God, this is like Pokemon burnout, man. Like there's just so much coming out right now. And we both played Pokemon Go all the time. So, I mean, it's an important franchise for us and we played a lot, but I think that we were kind of just like, man, like this is just coming out too quick. But I mean, now, it's not coming out for another 3-4 months. So, I mean, we still have time, to continue playing these games and enjoying them until they come to the next game. But also, like, the Pokemon Company, it's like the biggest IP in the world, right? So, like, they can have these yearly releases and have it work just because it is the biggest IP. They have the resources to do that.
Yeah. And with that, I think we're going to take a quick break and we'll come back and talk a bit more about Pokemon.
Yeah, sounds good. But we'll see you soon. Hey, what's up, trainers? We are back. Grab your quick balls, grab your Pokeballs, grab your premium balls, grab your heavy balls, grab all the kind of balls, the ultra balls, and throw them at your Pokemon and throw them in your boxes. We're taking on Cynthia. We're back. Looks like we had a little bit of an internet issue there.
Yeah.
Brandon and I were cutting in and out. But I guess we'll just, kind of just finish up what we were saying about Pokemon and then move on to our next topic. I think kind of where you lost me or where I lost you, Brandon, we were kind of chatting about, I guess, like the criticism of like them having like a yearly release cadence and whatnot. And kind of just wanted to say, they're the biggest IP in the world. Like, I don't know if they have the biggest team as far as like manpower, but I mean, I think that they have the resources they need to put that out there. So, and I personally enjoyed a lot of Legends Arceus. I think they pushed the mold a lot. I really enjoyed this one. So I'm sure that at the very least, I will enjoy some aspect of the next one as well. I mean, it's the first open world one, so I'm really crossing my fingers, hoping for the best. But I'm glad that we got this last one. These last two, really.
Yeah, man, I'm glad too. I'm really looking forward to exploring that new region in the open world. I was just looking at the map from the overhead, and there's like this huge swirl in the center, like this mountain. I'm just like, what is that? What's going on there?
That looks pretty cool.
It looks pretty cool. I'm excited to get in there and explore. But I think we've talked a bit enough about Pokemon.
Yeah, and it'll certainly come up again.
For sure. So do you want to talk about a title that you've been...
Yeah, I'd love to take the next one in stride. So I really want to talk about this game. It's a PlayStation exclusive, and it's called Stray. I know we kind of talked a little bit about it off the podcast, Brandon, but do you want to kind of just tell me what you know about the game?
All I remember is you are a stray cat. You play as a stray cat,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to like basically find your way around the world. You're like exploring the world as this cat,
Mm-hmm.
and you're making decisions along the way.
Yeah, yeah,
Is it
kind
like
of.
one of those kinds of games?
Yeah, it's really honestly, I guess like before we even get into it, it's kind of like a puzzle exploration game, kind of, really. I would say like narrative puzzle exploration game, and you play as a cat. And I kind of want to say platforming, but it's not really platforming because like you're kind of exploring this world from the point of view of a cat. And it's really cool just because like everything is, I guess like it's like a post-human world. So everything's like sized for us. But then when you're as a cat, it's very cool just to get that point of view.
Oh wow.
And yeah, it's really cool. It's really awesome. So like there's areas where you can like kind of climb cityscapes and then you get to like the rooftops. And there was one, I guess like one scenario where I was like, oh my gosh, there's nothing for me to jump on. Like, how am I going to get over this gate? And I like kind of looked at it for a second and I was like, I'm a cat. And I literally just walked through the gate because I was a cat. It was like literally like a gate with bars. And I was just like, I can just walk through it because I'm a cat. And that was kind of just like a mind-breaking moment. So it's kind of like a cat sim, and you kind of like play as a cat. And I guess I want to preface this by saying I am not a cat guy. Do not like cats. This cat in this video game is probably the most I've ever liked a cat. And I guess before we get into it, I feel like we talk about a lot of games here on the podcast, and it's kind of rare when we have a game like this. But this game changed my outlook on life. And I guess I'll just say that at the
I
top.
remember you mentioning that through text, and I was like, "What? What is your? How can a game about a cat change?" I'm curious.
Well, so that's the thing, Brandon. In this game, you play as a cat and you explore this like jaw-dropping city, city of robots, really, in a post-human era. And there's this big unspoken mystery of what happened to the world and how to get this way and why are there robots and not people? And like what happened to the people? And that's kind of like the mystery, and you have to like find that out on your own. But as you go through it, you realize that it's not really a story about a cat. It's a game about us. It's a game about humans. It's a story
Hmm.
all about us. It's about what we do best, our biggest strengths, our hubris. And I just found this game to be a reflection of the best of us and the worst of us, and just like a reflection of our society as it exists today. And
Interesting.
it's crazy to say that like a video game can do all that, but I really think this one does. So I want to talk a little bit about the mechanics of it. I know we kind of touched on it a little bit.
So it's first person or third person?
It's third person, and you control this cat.
How do they play? Like, I'm curious about the camera angle. How do they do that?
Well, I mean, it's very much third person. Like, you know how, like, if you're a third person, like in a Zelda game, like in Breath of the Wild, you see behind you and you see everything to scale, but you see you as a person from the third
Yeah.
person point of view. It's like that, but you're a cat.
So it's much lower.
Yeah, so
Relative to the world, you're a lot lower.
I would say the camera angle, like from you as a person in Breath of the Wild, you as a person, it's the same camera angle, but it's you as a cat in this world. So everything is a lot larger. And it also like it is a city where humans used to live. So you navigating that can feel it can feel very cool because there are a lot of like alleyways or like little pathways that you can find. Like you can climb in vents and stuff, and it just feels different because like you're a cat and you're navigating like a space that is somewhat familiar because it's like a reflection of our world, but then it's also like it's a very alien and cyberpunk space. So it's
I
very
see.
different. It has a very cool atmosphere to it, but you are navigating that in a cool way because you are a different kind of animal. You have a different point of view, you have a different level to everything.
I see.
That's really cool. I will say that's kind of like what I guess drew me in, but that's not what kept me going. I guess what really kept me going as I came back to this game was really just meeting the characters and trying to figure out what happened in the story. So I kind of talk about that in a little bit, but I guess yeah, just from like the mechanics standpoint, I guess that's pretty much it. You just play as a cat, and like you can go to sleep, and you can cuddle, you can like walk up to people, press triangle, and like rub up against their leg, and it's very cute. It's a very cute atmospheric game,
So there
and
are still people around.
well, it's they're robots.
Okay.
And I think I'm gonna get into that. So I guess at this point, I think that I'm gonna pretty much, I've beaten the whole game. I think I'm pretty much gonna spoil it. So if you're very intrigued or you'd like to know more, I guess maybe kind of like listen with a tentative ear. But I think that the end of the story is subjective. I think it had an explicit message, but I would say that I feel like I only am interpreting that explicit message because of my economic education, if that makes sense. So I will say I think the end of the story is subjective, but I found it explicit. I personally think that that is because of my economic education. And I kind of said that it's like a reflection of our society as it exists today. And I personally got a lot out of it. So I guess I'm kind of just going to spoil the main themes of the story, but I'm only going to spoil the main plot lines. And a lot of this game is told through the stories and characters, and I'm not really going to get into any of that. And I think that the key is kind of experiencing these characters because I mean, it's a story about us and they're a reflection on humans. So I don't know. I just know that I'm going to spoil some of that, but I think it's worth it for the conversation. So, Brandon, you kind of start out and you kind of play through the intro and you get into this first level of the city. And when somebody first sees you, like the robot, they first see you, they freak out and they like run from you and they like hit their alarm and like lights start flashing everywhere. And you basically, everybody's like running from you because they think you're a threat. Because the only other life form, I don't really know what they're called. They're kind of just like blurbs. They're like blurbs with eyes and they attack you and then you're kind of running from them. And that's how you end up in the city. I guess actually, when the game first starts out, you're just a cat living in the world, cat living with your cat family. And then you take a jump, you're in like some human ruins, you take a jump and you fall and you're hurt, but you end up finding your way into this robot city after being chased by these like blurb enemy things that they pretty much eat everything and anything, and the robots are scared of them. So the robots, after you find your way into the robot city, they all run from you. You meet them in the center of the town. And I guess, oh my gosh, a little bit of pretense to this. You also find like a little drone robot on your way running from the blurbs. And you solve this puzzle and you activate this like drone robot. And this drone robot is like your companion. So that's how like they're able to like translate messages. They're able to speak with the robots and they're able to basically interact with you. And this like drone robot helps you interact with the world. So I guess that like you're kind of just like a cat, but then like this drone robot is like talking to robots and then like it appears as text on the screen. At first I was like, okay, like it's kind of a little silly, but after the like the initial beat of it kind of wore off, I was like, okay, like this is what this game is. Like it's the robot reading the text to you, and you're in this city and you see this elevator and you meet this guardian who's kind of just like they have like a staff and they're kind of just like a guardian of the city. And they're like preparing to fight you. And then like your little drone robot says, like, we're friendly, you know, like we're not here to harm you. Like we're just trying to get out. And then you're kind of left to your own devices to explore the city. And you are trying to find a particular robot who might be able to help you get out. And that's kind of what they say is get out. They said nobody's succeeded in a very long time, but they might be able to help you. And you kind of start exploring this lower area, and it's called the slums. And you're in this city, it's the slums. And it's very aptly named, like there's trash everywhere. It feels like it has, I guess it's very evocative of like what you would see in like a poor neighborhood, or like it's very evocative of poverty. I guess if that makes sense. But it's also very clear that all of these robots are imitating and learning like the base forms of art. And what I mean by the base forms of art, like there's graffiti and like actual like art in the sense that it's like drawings and pictures. And it's very clear that the robots have like completely, I guess, like mapped the city with like their paint and graffiti. And there's even in the like the town hall area, there's like a little brief history and it talks about, the robots. And they call them their ancestors. They call them their soft ancestors, which is us. So you kind of just are left wondering like what happened to all the people. Yeah, soft ancestors. It's pretty cool. But you're kind of also left wondering what the relationship is between these robots and us people. And there's this guy, and they have this posting in the town, like, I'm looking for sheet music. I'm trying to learn how to play an instrument. And you can find, items around, you can find sheet music around the slums, and you take it to this person, and they say, oh, I know how to play this song. And they start to play it, but it's a song written by a robot. And it's like, this is, like Ode to Circuits or something like that, and they plays it. And you kind of go around finding different things, and you meet the person that you're trying to meet, and they tell you that they used to be a part of this group called the Outsiders. And the goal of their group was to get outside by any means necessary, or at any cost. I think that's what it was. Get outside at any cost or by any means or something like that. That's kind of the gist of it. And that's like their ethos. And he was like, well, all my friends left me, like they all got out and I didn't. And I guess he's very bitter about it. So you have to convince him to help you. And in doing so, you have to find these journals of the other outsiders. And you find in these apartments, the apartments, and they're in these lofts, and they have like pictures and stuff on their walls, and they've got books. And it's very clear that they're like emulating us and our behavior, but it's like not everything came from us. There are books that were written by them in their language, and like your drone comments on that. And they have their own computers and their own video games, and there's like a bar, and they have all these different things that it's just like parts of us. And there's this one apartment that really spoke to me. It was kind of set up like a library. Like it was very clearly, it used to be a library, and somebody like made a room inside of it. And you find this robot that's dead. And this robot's like literally face down in a book. And that's like when they crashed. And like you see dead robots all over the place because it's the slums. And in the drone starts to read it, and it's like stage 4 of emulating human consciousness, and like how to create your own art, and like yada yada yada. And it kind of is like explaining like they had their own literature and ethos on how they could emulate us, to be their own beings, I guess. And it's very interesting just being in this society where there are singers and writers and poets, and they're kind of doing all of these like base forms of art, and they're very expressive, and they all have their own personality, and they're all individual, but they all kind of exist here in the slums, and they're trapped. They can't get out because the elevator's broken. And basically you find out that one of the outsiders might be trapped somewhere, and they might not have gotten out. And you end up going from the slums with the help of this other outsider to find Doc. And Doc created this device that helps you like kill those like blurb enemies. And basically, as soon as you leave the slums, like these blurb enemies are there, and you have to run from them. You have to like stealth and run away from them because they'll kill you. And basically, you solve a bunch of puzzles, and you help him, through logic and like other kind of puzzle mechanics, which it's very fun. You kind of leave the area that he's trapped in, and you get back to the slums. And his son helped you, which I think it's very interesting that some of them have like parental relationships, which I just don't understand. I don't really, it's not really explained, but it's cool that it's like this robot thinks like this robot's his dad, And I don't know. I think that's open to interpretation, me personally, because there's a lot of dead robots. I think that if maybe like somebody fixes a robot, then like maybe they are I don't know. I think that that's my interpretation of it because you meet some like children robots later on.
It's a very interesting world. I love how like they took that whole dynamic and they really ran with it. I feel like a lot of times with ideas and concepts and content creation, we see this amazing idea and it never really gets executed properly. Would you say, Stray is a proper execution of this concept of a world where,
Absolutely. So I guess there's like three big parts to it, and this is part one. And I think that at the point in time when you're in part one, there's a lot of mystery. You don't really know why all these robots are acting like humans. And it's very weird because you'll see a lot of things in the world and you'll just be like, damn, like that's like a reflection of us. Like I can really see a person doing that. Or like I know a person that would absolutely do that or act like this. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And it's very hidden. There's a shop that you can go to. And there's one item that you have to buy to progress the story. There's an item you can buy, which is another piece of sheet music. And then there's a third thing that you can buy from the shop, and it's covered. And you don't know what it is until you buy it. And in order to buy it, basically, you have to find everything in the slums. You have to find all of the hidden things in the slums, which I did. And then I bought the item. And it's a picture of a human, or it may not be a human, and the robot. Actually, it's not. It's just a robot. It's the robot, but they have like a mop. And the drone, I guess another thing that I forgot to mention, as you're going through this world, the drone will remember things about the past. As you progress further through the story or find something, or I don't know, you discover some hidden path, like you'll unlock memories like of the drone, like the drone robot that's following you or with you, your companion. They all unlock memories, and that will give you like a little sliver of the story of the world. And after you see this picture, that's he remembers, oh, these robots used to be just cleaning bots, and they were really just meant to serve humans. That's all they were basically janitorial robots. And in this moment in time, it's not important, but it becomes very important later on, I think. And also another thing to mention, whenever you talk to a robot, they all have their own name. They all have a unique name, and they are essentially people. They're presented as people. I think they act like people. And I guess they also have this sense of this exploration and want for discovery that we all have. And I guess to say the least, that kind of propels you into the second area of the game. And so there are a couple what did I say? The Outriders or Outsiders, that's the group. After you save Doc, after you bring him back, reunite him with his son and the other outsider, they give you a badge, and basically it gets like put on your like cat vest, and that badge makes you an outsider. And you use that to go to, so there were four outsiders. Two of them are left in the slums. You go to find the third one to hope that maybe they made it out. And you think that the two that you're going to, you think that they are together. And you make it to the third one, which is instead of being, it's like an in-between area. After you leave the slums, you're confronted with these like blurb enemies, and it's very crazy, it's very hectic. They really just try and kill you. And you're really like kind of confronted with it, and it's really bad. It gets really gruesome and kind of spooky. And then you get to the second area, and it's a very small area. It's very condensed. It's not as big as like the slums. The slums is the biggest area of the game by far, and it's kind of just like this tree structure, and there are a bunch of robots living in this tree structure, and you can kind of explore and talk to them. And I actually spent very little time in this area, but this is where like the kids were, and you meet this one person, and they're like, oh, like we have a school here, like Aunt Clementine used to teach us, and Aunt Clementine is one of the outriders or outsiders. One of the outsiders is Clementine. And he's like, she taught us so much. Like, I really wish that she was here, but she went on to the next level of the city. So I hope she's doing okay. And then you continue up this tree and you find one of the other outsiders. And it's like, it's very cool. It's like very cyberpunk, Brandon. Like, I think you would really like this character in this part. And they're just like hooked up to 20 monitors behind them, and they've got cords and like all these cords, like it's very like Matrix-esque. And their heads like slumped, and there's just wires and cords sticking out, and they're like meditating. And they like come out of this state and they're like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm seeking higher enlightenment here. If you're searching for Clementine, she left and went on to the next area of the city. And like it kind of gives you like, you could do this or you could just continue on. And I decided to just continue on because I wanted to see more of the game. And I just think that that's cool. You get to just see like all these aspects of people. Like this guy truly just like trying to meditate and seek higher enlightenment through, I don't even know.
And these robots are truly just like people.
Mm-hmm.
Robots over here meditating. Next thing you know, he's doing yoga.
Hey, he might be, man. But it's very cool. It's like also kind of goofy, and these parts of the world, they're very detailed, and they've got like, I don't know, I just think that it's very cool. Like the actual world of it is just incredible. And you continue on to the next level, and I think this is where you're going to find it interesting, Brandon. You get to this next level, and it's just like immediately, it kind of reminds me of like the Upper West Side, but kind of like a Chinatown-esque area, kind of like a mix of like Chinatown and like the Upper West Side, if you've ever been to New York. But immediately, also, when you talk to that person in the school, they give you a picture of what Clementine looks like. So you're coming into this area, you have this picture of Clementine, and you're like, okay, I'm trying to find Clementine. And you talk to somebody, and they immediately, like the first person you talk to, you ask them about Clementine. So I don't have time to talk to you about that criminal.
Oh, wow.
And like, get out of here. And then you see like all these postings, and it's like wanted for free thinking and rebellion. And there's like these cop robots, and they're like hurting people and like oppressing them and like searching for Clementine. And in the process, they're like arresting people like these other robots.
Yeah.
And there's like a very clear oppressive state power structure in this second area. Oh man, and it's really crazy because in this area, it's also like everybody's wearing like nice clothes. They have shops, like they've got bars. There's a club. And they've just got like, it very much feels like you're not in the slums anymore. Like you're in Midtown, and there's just like a lot more going on. There's a lot more flashing lights. Like you meet people and they're like making a mixtape, and you can do a mission where you have to like break security cameras as a cat, and you break security cameras, and then they give you like their mixtape. Actually, it's kind of funny because you kind of walk up to them and it's like, take mixtape. And they're like, dude, I'm not going to give you my mixtape for free. What is this? And they're like, but if you want, you can break these security cameras and I'll give you a mixtape. And basically that mixtape comes in really real handy later.
That's funny.
And it's just really cool. Just like there's people just getting drunk, like people dancing, like people care about their clothes here. And I just think that it's more of a reflection of like our society today, like consumer culture and kind of like trends and whatnot. And there's like a lot more drug usage in this area than there was in the first one. Like there was a bar in the first one, like a single bar, and there's a club, like 2 or 3 restaurants and bars, and like people are smoking, and like 4 or 5 different shops for like clothing and stuff. And I just think that that is really interesting. Do you have any like thoughts on that particularly?
Just the aspect of like how this kind of protected part of the world where there are cops. Is this the only part where there are cops?
Yeah, this is the only part where there are cops, yeah.
Is also the part where like there are, a lot of people doing drugs and stuff. I don't know. It's interesting. They definitely trying to, like you mentioned, give a reflection of our world. You mentioned how like the cops are beating on people. Stuff. It sounds about right. Yeah, I'm curious to see how that played out, especially the like Upper West Side comparison. Kind of want to see it for myself and see how similar it is, and see how the world would be navigated from a cat's eyes.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's take a quick break, and then we'll talk some more about, I guess, this second area, and then the third part of the game. So
we are back.
So what do you think, man? What do you think about Stray as it stands right now?
Dude, Stray is such an interesting game. Well, first of all, it's not a $60 title. It's an Annapurna interactive
Yeah. Hmm.
I believe it's only their game, right? They didn't collaborate with anyone to make
Yeah, so
this.
Annapurna is the publisher. It's like a Swedish developer. It's not very many people, and I mean, it's a PlayStation exclusive right now, but when it was coming out, PlayStation had a lot of branding and like a blog about it where they talk about like the cat that was an inspiration for the game. And
Right.
this game's actually been in development for a long time. Like I think since like 2015, I think is when it was like first shown somewhere, and which is like 7 years, which is just crazy. Like,
7 years in the making, bro. That's like cooking a steak for on like the slowest heat. And like, once it's finally finished, you're just like not even cooking, that's smoking a steak till
yeah.
it's
Hmm.
man, that's gotta be such a great game. And the fact that it's only like 39.99,
Hmm.
it's definitely worth a lot more than that.
Yeah, I would say absolutely.
Dang.
But here's the thing, I don't own this game anymore. So I beat it, but I don't own it anymore. So I got this game while I did like a trial for the PlayStation Plus Premium. And it's on PlayStation Plus Premium right now for the moment. And obviously, like, I think that this developer, like, I obviously really think that you should support it and buy their game. But, obviously, gaming's expensive. If you're looking to do something that makes sense, if you're thinking about upgrading to the PlayStation Plus Premium for a year, this title in and of itself is $30. And I think if you were going from the mid tier to the highest tier, this game would cover that. Like the price of this game is the amount that it would be. Like I think it's like a $30 difference from the mid PlayStation premium tier to like the PlayStation like premium tier. And so I guess it's kind of like if you're interested in this game and literally anything else that they have, like I think it's worth it. Have you thought about upgrading to the I guess the next highest tier, Brandon?
I haven't, but honestly, it'd probably be a bit more economical for me, just given that I'm buying so many games and also just the nature of the storage on the PS5. I'm having to like delete and reinstall games constantly anyways, so it's like might as
Yeah.
well just invest into this and delete and reinstall games that I might have never otherwise tried
Yeah.
and just kind of expand my palette that way. I feel like that's the main appeal to me personally, is
Mhm.
just trying out these games that I otherwise never would have paid $60 for, actually 70 for PS5
Mhm.
games,
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. Yeah, I think it was really worth it. I mean, if you decided if you had a PlayStation, just had the base subscription service or subscription tier, if you could get Stray, play Returnal, and do the demo for Roller Drome, all of which we've talked about recently, and you could do that, feasibly, in whatever time frame you'd like. But I did not renew, and maybe we can talk about that at another time when we're talking about the subscription services. I don't know. I plan on doing like a write-up or something, so maybe I'll put my thoughts together and we can bring that back up to the show at a later time. But it was definitely worth it for the trial period. If you haven't done that yet, like if you have not, I think they're giving everybody like an option to do a trial period. So maybe you should look into that, Brandon. Like I know that I got like 40 days for like $9.
Oh yeah, I already did the trial option. I loved it. That's how I tried Fallout 4
Oh, nice.
and a couple other titles. And I really like I believe like the virtual machine kind of thing aspect to it. I don't know how they work it out now, but you know what I'm talking about, where it's like,
Like the older games?
no, it's like you don't need to even download the
Oh,
game.
you can just like do it via cloud gaming.
Yeah, like that's what I did for Fallout, and it was
Mm,
super cool because I got right into the game. It saved so much time, and it was
yeah,
nice.
that's awesome. You just like streamed it.
Yeah, exactly. You can kind of just like shop titles that way and then kind of determine whether or not you want to buy the actual physical title.
Yeah. I actually really quick on that, and then we'll get back to Stray. I tried out Final Fantasy VII, and that's a game that it's been on my wish list forever, and I've kind of just like I've almost
What?
bought it once or twice, and I tried it, and I'm very
What
glad
do
that
you
I didn't
think?
buy it because I didn't like it at all. So
Really? That's surprising. I thought
I
you would.
know. I think that I don't know. Maybe I'll have to give it another chance at some other time. But I think for now, I mean, I just tried. I just didn't like the gameplay of it, and maybe it was just a bad intro. But I think for now, it's just gonna have to wait on that one. But
Yeah.
but yeah, so it's very like if there might be a game that you want to really want, and then you try it on the subscription service, and you might not like it. I mean, personally, I would have been very disappointed if I got into FF7 and that was what it was. So.
Dude, I think that's a game you really got to spend time with because a story at first is kind of like it takes a while for you to get into it.
Okay. Well, yeah, maybe in another time would be for me in FF7. I don't know. But yeah, back to Stray, kind of where we left off with that. I just got to the second area of the city, and it's very interesting to me, Brandon, because all the people that are doing different forms of artwork, and I guess I'll say more complex. Like they're more worried about fashion, they're more worried about self-expression through what the clothes that they wear, and like I guess like to some extent the drugs they're consuming and they're making more complex versions of art, like with this band that you meet that has a mixtape. They're not simply like learning to play an instrument, they're experimenting with beats and, making mixtapes, which is just kind of cool. And I think it's also kind of interesting because it was analog technology. Like it's very much like a cassette tape, which I just thought was kind of cool. I thought that was interesting personally, and they had like a boom box over their shoulder, very much like reminiscent of a different time. And I just thought that was very interesting. And you're on a search for Clementine, who's an outlaw, a rebel. Like all the police are looking for her, and you're kind of able to find her pretty quickly. And I think it's also like you're able to find her very quickly because she's in an abandoned building. And I think that that kind of speaks to, for me personally, I was like, of course the police cannot find her here because it says like police do not enter, you know. It's kind of like the hubris of it, of course, like how could anyone break the rules and why would they, and that's kind of just like it's funny that that's where she's hiding, camping out, and you kind of find that she's got this like honestly, she's got this like dope pad. Like it's a really like in this abandoned building, like it's a really cool apartment. She's got a lot of really cool stuff. And you kind of talk to her and she's like, okay, the only way we can get out of here is the tram to the third level. Like that's the only way out. And I'm gonna keep this section kind of brief. I'm kind of gonna I'm just gonna summarize. I'm really gonna summarize it, but it's this part I think is like this next part is like very kind of like special. So I definitely play this, at least make it to this part if you check out the title. And you kind of like go and find this you have to find a power source to power the train to the third level. And I guess let me ask you this, Brandon. If you're in this midtown city, where do you think the biggest power source is going to be?
In a city, the biggest power source will probably be
But it's also like it's a video game, you know what I mean?
power plant that powers like the center of the city.
Yeah, that's kind of like what I thought, but it's in the garbage disposal area.
Well, that would make sense because in order to like burn
Mhm.
trash, it requires a large amount of energy.
Yeah. So that's kind of like the conceit is they consume a lot more in this second level, and they have a lot more trash. And that's like the processing of that is takes up the largest amount of power. So you go in and you steal the core and you go and take it to Clementine. And basically the person that helps you get into the facility, they sell you out, man. They sell you out to the Fez. And yeah, you and Clementine, you both get caught and you guys are both locked up. And
Wow.
you have to escape this prison and you find Clementine and they're not torturing her, but like there's a lot of other like dead robots in the cells and you save her like kind of just in time and then you find some other but also in this like the robot you find your robot pal like your drone and they get caught too so the two of you have to go back to save this robot and I guess I'm kind of like at this point two things, Brandon. Like I kind of left these out so I was trying just to like, speed it up and summarize it but probably two of the most important things that you find out about this story in the second level is you find out like what those blurb things are that have been attacking you the whole time,
Right.
which you find out that those are a bacteria that humans created to eat their garbage. And when they died, they mutated and eat anything and everything now.
Wow.
So,
That sounds actually like something we might do.
yeah, for real. And then the second thing that you learn is that as you uncover more of this world and your drone learns more and more from their memories, they remember that they used to be human.
Oh, wow.
So all of the robots are still like cleaning robots, but the drone that you have with you is you learn that they were a human. And it kind of like there are all these like intimate acts that happen that really speak to, I guess, like what it means to be human, you know, and this robot or this drone that's like a human trapped inside this robot, they like risk their life for you as a cat. So you have to go back for them in the prison. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's just kind of crazy that you learn that. And you learn these like little bits that you learn a lot in the third level about that. So, but they know that they're human, but they kind of know, they don't remember how they got into becoming a drone. Like they don't remember how they preserved their consciousness and they don't remember why. And they don't remember what happened. But you know they're human and like your relationship as the cat and this drone like kind of grow in this second area through all this like crazy stuff that you guys have to go through. But then you basically escape and you guys are escaping prison and you like steal a car, the three of you, the cat, the drone, and Clementine.
I see.
You steal this car and basically you're gaining on the police, but like you don't think you're gonna make it. And basically Clementine like throws you, the cat and the drone, like through like a gate. And they're like, I'm gonna go the other way, and they're gonna like think that we're all together still. Like I made the motto of the Outsiders, it's get outside by any means. And, like I wrote that and I meant that. Like I might not be able to, but you have to get outside. Like you're from the outside, like you don't belong here anyways. Like you have to get out. And so I don't know. I cause like I'm like this is stupid. Like come on, we can just all go together. You don't need to do this. But I don't know. That was just me. And I mean, it's very sweet that this like robot that you know it has like their own personality. Like they were a teacher in the lower level, and they like I don't know. They're a rebel and an outlaw here because of their free thinking. Like it's very cool that
Sounds like they're
they,
kind of a martyr. Like
yeah.
you're willing to die for a greater cause.
Yeah, they absolutely are. And they just like, if they sacrifice themselves for you, you have the power core and you plug it into the train and you take the train to the third floor. And this is kind of where it all starts to come together, Brandon. So I guess this is really where, I guess, like where the big spoilers happen. So I mean, like I've kind of spoiled some stuff, but like if you want to click away or skip ahead now, like now's probably a good time. Like this is probably the major spoilers of the game. And you get to this third level, Brandon, and the first thing you see is a robot, but they're not like the other robots. Like they don't express themselves. They have a mop in hand and they say, "Good morning, sir. Like, hope you enjoyed what you consumed on the lower level. I don't know. Like, I hope you enjoy what you consume up here as well." And they're just like, what? Like, what the hell? And it's like not a person. It's like CG 1113-4. And kind of like, what? And you're kind of just like going around this very like pristine, all white, very sci-fi environment. And you're just like, this doesn't even feel like the same area. Like it doesn't even feel like the same city. Like it's so drastically different. And all like the cleaning robots are still cleaning. And you kind of just like get into the control room. And that's when your drone remembers everything, basically. And they were like, oh shit, I remember now, like the third level, like the richest of them all. It's like they had all the money, all the power. And it's like, I hated the lot of them. Like this is how it all started. Like there was a plague and they thought it didn't affect them because it was in the slums. And I watched as my family died around me. And I was one of the last ones. And I decided to preserve myself for humanity. Like I wanted to be left. Like, I wanted there to be something because I knew that we weren't getting out of this. All these people up here, like they could have done something, but they did nothing. and now we're all gone. So I guess I'll just carry on, for the memory of humanity and like the memory of my family. And you're just like, shit. And it's crazy. And I think that that's very telling that it's like the one percenters live in this area. And I think it's when you're there, like my immediate thoughts were like, of course, like there are these cleaning bots are still cleaning. Like there wasn't enough human in the richest, top percent for them to have an impact. Like these cleaning robots emulated human behavior, and like the best of us because of what we did. And I just think it's like interesting. Like there's like the second level, there's like a power structure. Like there's robots that emulate our police state, and like there's the robots that emulate rebels that and like drug users and artists, and in this third level, like there's no emulation because there was nothing left in them. They almost weren't human. It's kind of the message that I got from that. And basically you're in the control room, you turn the computers on and you like solve some puzzles and you open up this city. So I guess that's like the city's underground. I don't know why. I mean, the city's underground and there's this huge ceiling. You have to open up the ceiling and that the light comes in. I think it's because the earth was destroyed and you couldn't survive on the outside. And I think that's why the city's underground. And like the city, like everything ends up working out. Like when you turn this on, you shut off. The police, the only way they're able to enforce the other robots is because of these like drones that they made. And basically the drones get shut off. So like that power structure is, I guess, destroyed when you open the ceiling. And I don't know, it's just crazy because basically everything gets set right when you do this. And in order to like overload, you have to like overload the computers. And you have this like very intimate moment where also like all the blur bacteria, like the sun kills them. And, Clementine is saved because those drones, like they kind of go offline. And the elevator from the slums to the midtown, like that starts working again. And like basically you kind of fix everything, like all these immediate problems that were happening in this world. And you have this moment where in order for you to do this, your drone character had to overload the computers to reset them, and they're dying. Like after they remembered everything, they told you the story of humanity and like how it's in its final breaths, like it was the hubris of wealth and power, and a plague, that did us in this world, which is very fitting. I mean, it's been in development long before COVID, but I think, after COVID has a different meaning, different message, and kind of have this intimate moment where the robot is kind of saying, like, I thought I needed to stay alive to, like carry on the message of humanity or the memory of humanity, the memory of my family, but I don't think I need to. Like, I see so much of it in you and the robots. Like, it's not about being flesh and blood, and it's more than that. And they kind of pass, and you, as the cat, you have the option to just walk away, or you can lay down and take a nap next to it, which is what I did. And that's kind of the end. You kind of just follow a pipe, do some platforming, and you go into the outside world. And that's kind of the end of the game.
That's awesome. So the end of the game is like getting some real sunlight and just kind of restoring nature, restoring the natural order.
Yeah, to this like city that was devoid of light. Yeah.
So interesting, man. It's such an interesting concept. I was going to ask, what are your thoughts on kind of just why that happens, why that disconnect happens?
I think it's just it's like a commentary on, how, I mean, like we're all connected, you know what I mean? And I guess that separation, it's also like when you open up the sky and you let the light in, it very clearly shows you the levels of these cities, the city. And you see the slum and you see it's bigger, like there's more people in the slums. And then there's like the midtown and it's this huge section, but it's not even half the size of the slums.
Yeah.
And at the top, it's like the smallest of them all. And I think it's very telling, just like, we're all connected and it doesn't like these levels and barriers, like in status and money that we, put in the hierarchy of our society. Like it's all self-imposed and it separates us more than physical barriers because you see it from the perspective of a cat. you can just walk through different barriers. And I just think it's very telling that in the wake of everything and, our global crisis that we're facing right now with, our Earth being on the edge of like ecological disaster, we have to work together more than ever. And, I mean, it doesn't matter what the value of the dollar is if there's no water and no food. It doesn't really matter what house or neighborhood you live in if there's no air and we've burnt our Earth. So it kind of really puts like that kind of stuff into perspective and, the barriers that I mean, we're all connected, we're all one people. I think that we should all just lend a hand to one another. And that's kind of what I got from it is that, we're not so different after all. We all have these base things that make us human, and we need to lean into that and more what like we have in common as opposed to what separates us.
Man, that's breathtaking. It kind of just makes me think of like the power of video games and those stories that they tell and how compelling they can be. Just think about like how many people will experience Stray and go on to, live their regular lives, but they have that experience, that story, those memories in their subconscious mind. And just that, I think, is really, really powerful and influential and can do a lot for society. And it's just really interesting how like this vehicle that we call a video game is often like ridiculed in our society today. And it's a tool that's just so powerful when you really get down to think about it, because it's like you're just playing this game, right? But it's like you're learning. You just mentioned so many themes and like ideas. Yeah, just in general themes, big thoughts. And they're all packaged in a way where you're not really like overwhelmed by them. It's a game. You're just interacting with this world.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like it's
Yeah,
a
absolutely.
very powerful tool.
Yeah, video games is kind of like a super medium, I would say. You have all of these aspects. You have the interactivity, you have the music and the sound design, and you have the art of the world, and you have just being in it. It makes you more, because you interact with it, it gives you more ownership over the story. And this is, I think, is a great example of that, and kind of like what you said also about like, games not being taken as seriously. I mean, I kind of left this experience and it certainly changed my life. And I looked at the reviews and people were like, oh, the platforming sucks. 1 out of 5 stars or whatever. I even like went to like some outlets that I do like that I think have good taste in games. And they were like 3 out of 5. Like it's a cool cat sim, but that's it. Like, you played the whole game, you saw credits. How'd you not get this? And that's kind of like, I'm like, it's subjective. So if you play it, like you're probably going to get something different out of it. I mean, like there's so many different characters, there's so many
Right.
NPCs that you could like have an attachment to, and especially if you're a cat person. Like I said, I'm not a cat person, but I mean, like if you are into cats, like there's a lot of like minutia and like attitude that this cat shows that I think if you're a cat person, I think you'd really get a lot out of it. And I think that that kind of also brings up like why we're here, because like sometimes like we talked about it with Returnal, like people kind of like slept on that game when it came out, and it was like we all really enjoyed it, and we were able to like kind of champion it in a way. And I think that this game got a lot of buzz, but I think it left a lot of people wanting more. And I think that hey, maybe if you left this experience wanting more, maybe you should like revisit it or think deeper about what's in this world. And there's just so many things that I didn't even touch on. Like it'll probably take you like 5 to 10 hours to complete. I think how long did beat has it at like 5. I played it a little longer than 5 hours. And I don't know. I mean, like kind of like what you were saying, it's like a super medium, and it's a tool that can allow you to have these bigger takeaways, if that makes sense.
Something that really sat with me was when you mentioned that the drone, at the end of it kind of realizes that they were wrong. Their initial idea of trying to preserve themselves, trying to stay alive, essentially, was kind of doing the opposite of what they were trying to do with preserving humanity, because he said he saw it in the cat, right? He saw the cat exuding kind of the
Yeah, it
human.
was in the cat and in the other robots. Yeah.
So can you elaborate a bit more on that? Because that intrigued me.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting because you play a lot of this game and he thinks that he was serving a human. He thinks when he's still remembering a lot of it. You play a lot of this game. He hasn't unlocked his memories yet. And as you kind of progress, like you learn more and more. And the point when he remembers that he's a human, he sees this pod and he sees this pod and he kind of says, "What are these pods?" And he's like, "Oh my gosh, I remember people would get in these pods and they would preserve their consciousness into a drone." And he kind of like dot, 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 because it's all text-based. Like there's no voiceovers, which also like if you're playing video games and like sometimes we have a tendency to click through text. If you click through text, you're not going to, if you don't read it, you're not experiencing this world. So I guess that's just something to keep in mind as well. And he's kind of like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm human. Like I need a sec." And he like retreats into his like own, like he basically, you don't see him again for like another 45 minutes. Like he doesn't talk. He will not translate anything. And like, so you're just a cat for those 45 minutes because he translates the writing in the world and like you can't speak to anyone without him because it's he's speaking to them and then he tells you what they said. So when he does that, he really just like he kind of retreats. But you get to see that these robots that are emulating our behavior, they're emulating like kindness. Like there's also like this huge aspect where they're growing plants and they're like growing trees and like they're taking care of things and there's ownership, expression, and there's also like caringness and tenderness as they take care of these like plants and other life forms. But there's also like drama. And in the slums, like there's a point where like there are two people, they kind of like teen energy and they're just like playing catch, but they're playing catch with a can of paint. And I'm like, oh, I just love throwing paint around. It's just so much fun. And it's like their sport, but then they drop it inevitably. And that like creates this whole drama because there's a shopkeeper and they're like, "I can't believe you spilled paint all over our pavement." And she's like yelling at them and also like cleaning it up. And, you know, there's like shops. And even though like there's no economy, there's still like people want to sell things. And like these robots want to sell things. And then there's like this grandma and she knits like clothing for people. It's just very interesting. Like in this first area, you know, these people there or these robots are expressing themselves in very unique ways that people would. And then in the second area, it's kind of a little bit more elevated where it's clear they have a little bit more time, a little bit more leisure, and I guess like activities that come with it, like as far as like to waste time, kind of like how we consume in our society and also like consumer culture. And then it's kind of like at the top, they don't really emulate humans at all. And I think that, you know, the drone seeing that and seeing the progression of that. Also, you're on mute.
That's so interesting. It's like I want to say, I don't know if this is the right word to use, but it's like a kind of a dichotomy. I want to say,
Yeah,
like,
I think that's the right word.
you would think that, you know, these people at the top would have preserved their humanity, but it's like they're kind of just like bots in a sense.
Yeah, because I don't know. I interpret it as there wasn't enough human left in them to for the robots to emulate.
Right. That's
And
ironic,
yeah.
almost.
hmm
It's really interesting how that plays out. And I think that definitely, you know, you could use that same lens and look at reality, right?
Yeah, and also like I mean we've talked about it a little bit on this podcast before, but like I think that the wealth gap is very much like on display in this like the visualization of the world where it's like the biggest area is the slums and then there's like this middle area and it's about half, it's less than half the size of the slums and then you know the top area is just a sliver. And you know in the US like I mean I haven't seen the most recent numbers in a while, but 50% of Americans own less than 3% of the wealth. And then I think it goes to like 20 to 30% owned by 40%. And then I think it's like 70% is owned by the top 10.
So the world's kind of divided that way.
Yeah, and it's kind of like we don't really need those barriers. Like, who does it serve? Like, it only serves the people at to the top. Like, they don't even really get to experience it because we can't.
They're so busy trying to like manage 99% that they don't even get to be people.
Yeah, So it's kind of just like we're all in this together, you know, and we need each other. So it serves nobody. It's kind of the point of that. But well, let's take a quick break and we'll come back and talk about some more stuff.
See you soon.
All right, we're back. And that was Stray. I mean, I personally, you know, really loved the experience. Obviously, it kind of talks about some heavy hitting topics, but I really think it's a story about us. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I really love the experience. So I would recommend it to anyone, especially if you're a cat lover.
Yeah, especially if you're into anthropology. So it's really interesting. It seems like, and just from an outside perspective, someone who's never played it, I'm very intrigued. And I've already heard some things. Like it seems to be a very popular game on Twitch. People are wanting to stream this game. And I think that says a lot about a title if people are wanting to stream it, if people are tuning into the streams,
Yeah.
especially if it's just about a cat, right? It's like it's gotta be something there. So
You know, I took some great footage as I was going through it. So I'm gonna post those to our TikTok. So by the time this comes out, you can check out some gameplay on our TikTok. And you know, I mean, I played this on PlayStation Plus Premium. You know, that might be the best way to play it, but it is a $30 title. Maybe do some more research, but I mean, I definitely love the experience and you know, I think it changed my life and I hope it impacts you, you know, a little bit as well. So it's really all I got to say about that. Definitely play Stray. And I mean, I know I spoiled a lot of the game on this, but I also I left a lot there. Like the art of it, you know, like just the art of being in the world and like the graffiti and the attention to detail. Like that's something that like I can't really express through my words. You got to experience it for yourself. But yeah, I guess go check out our TikToks on it. You know, they're cute little cat videos. So I hope you enjoy. You can follow us on TikTok. We're on Instagram, YouTube. You know, thank you to all the people that watched the demo of Roller Drome. Means a lot. That was just fun. It ended very unceremoniously, but I actually picked that game up. I picked up Roller Drome, so maybe you'll hear more about that soon. And you can follow us on Twitch. Links in the description down below. Thank you to our patrons. Thank you so much for tuning in today. You have anything you want to say, Brandon, before we end it up?
peace in the streets. Shine those badges. Shine those badges. Keep them nice and shiny. That's what I want to see. Thank you so much for tuning in. Follow us on the Instagram, on the TikTok. And yeah, I just love you guys. Really, really appreciate that I'm able to do this, get on here and just talk about games we love. So
yeah, it's a lot of fun. Yeah, thank you so much to everyone that makes this possible. So enjoy some games. I guess we'll see you in the next one. Thanks so much.
peace in the streets.